Hey guys, I'm gonna scraplift this picture that I took last night of my beautiful sister and her beautiful baby. They are upstairs sleeping right now. Yeah, the baby was awake crying at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's been a long time since we've had that experience. But he has gone back to bed, so we're letting my sister and her husband and the baby sleep, and my girls are having a sleepover. I love it. We've always thought that we'd do this, but this is the first time we've ever done it. My two daughters who have separate rooms are having a sleepover in one room so that my sister and brother-in-law and their baby can sleep in Sophie's room, because Sophie has a double bed. So the girls are having a sleepover on the floor in Olivia's room because she has a single bed. So anyways, they just arrived and I snapped this picture of them with my Instax camera, and it's just like awesome. I love this picture. So I was meaning to just stick it in my project life, but I love how the picture came out so much that I want to scrapbook it, because project life, I kind of have this little bit of a dilemma, because my project life I look at a lot more than I look at my scrapbooks, but there's so much in project life that sometimes certain pictures or certain things can get overlooked because there's just so much to take in. So I'm going to make a layout about this. Also, I'm doing at Studio Calico, I'm participating in the scrapbook The Person Before You challenge, and so the person before me was Suz Manneke. I hope I pronounced that right. But she's awesome. She's got an amazing gallery. So this is the layout that I'm going to scraplift. And the elements I'm going to lift are the strips of paper, or I think some of it might be washi. Yeah, strips of paper and washi on the top and bottom, and then picture kind of on the side. She used a silhouette element here, one of those journaling cards. I use these a lot for Project Life. I've printed up a couple of them and I have some in my library, so I might use a silhouette element, or I might just do some of my regular layering that I always do. And I think I might use some type of a grid or ledger paper as my background instead of plain cardstock. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so when I scraplift, what I like to do, I don't want to do a direct copy, and I have a hard time not copying, especially when I like something as much as this. Like, I'm going to want to put this exactly there and something exactly there. So what I do so that I don't make this exactly like hers is I'm just going to look at me with my hoodie on, you guys. It's like, well, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. It's not that early, but we were up really late last night because my sister arrived late, and yeah, it's cold in the basement at 7 o'clock in the morning, so I had my hoodie on. Anyways, I'm going to look at this, give this a really good look, and think about all the things that I want to take away from this and what I want to incorporate into my own layout. And then I'm going to turn it off and try not to look at it so that I don't do an exact copy. So that's just my method for scrap lifting. So there it is. It's going off, and I'm going to not look at it. So we'll see where this one goes.
So here I'm just pulling out some stamps that I end up not using, but I took them out so I could keep them in mind to use. And now I'm just trying to figure out what papers I'm going to use for both the background and for some of the layers behind the photo. You guys, I am coming down with a cold and just on the brink of laryngitis, so what do I decide to do with my afternoon but narrate 3 videos? So if my voice gives out on me, I apologize, but I want to get these videos narrated before I lose my voice. Um, so there I'm just kind of trying to use the size of the photo as a guide for how big I want my layers to be. And I think I'm deciding on a background paper at this point. My gut was telling me to go with that cream, but I just wanted to think about all the other options. And now this Jenny Bolin acrylic chevron stamp is going to give me some grief. And I ended up having to turn off the video because it took me so long to get it off the little paper that it came in. I have a little black foam pad that I put under my under my project when I'm stamping, especially when I'm stamping with a big background stamp. It's not that big, but you know, a big-ish background stamp that I want to stamp clearly. So it's just kind of like a mouse pad, but it doesn't have a hard side on it. Both sides are like the back side of a mouse pad. Now I'm going to cut off some strips for the top and bottom borders on this layout. If you remember the one I'm lifting, it had some interesting papers and washi tape and stuff at the top and bottom. And I want to introduce new papers, like I didn't want it to just have the same papers that were in my layers, just for added interest. And then that wood grain really stood out as the boldest thing, and so I needed to bring a bit of the same or something equally bold, and so it was easiest to just go with the same because I had it there. So that's why I took that little thin strip of wood grain and used it on the top and on the bottom. And I'm just kind of laying out how I'm gonna kind of lay out the main elements. It's pretty easy when you're scrap lifting someone because it all goes where the other person put it. Now I'm just trying to think about how I want to embellish this, and I really liked those man of the house chipboard frames from American Crafts. I really love the colors of them, and what I'm doing here is I like that orange piece. I like the shape of it, but I didn't love the color of it because I didn't really have, it's actually kind of like a yellowy orange. But anyways, I liked it so much that I ended up going with it, even though it wasn't exactly the perfect color. Now I'm going to splatter some paint and Mr. Huey's on this. The first thing I'm using there is a combination of paint. It's called Shopping Bag by Making Memories. It's a combination of that paint and Glimmer Mist. And then I used, boy, that went fast. I used some Mr. Huey's in green and blue. Now I'm using those American Crafts precision pens, which I do enjoy using. I like them so far. But they all look the same, so I have to grab all four of them every time. There are different widths of the, like there's a 0.8, a 0.5, a 0.2, and a 0.1. And so I'm going to label them with washi tape on the tops of them so that I can see what they are. Now I'm using white StazOn ink here, and that really cool stamp that came in the Sorbonne add-on from Studio Calico, the City of Lights kit. That's where most of the stuff from this layout is from. I don't know if I mentioned that in the blurb at the beginning. And then I just grabbed a piece of blue scrap paper from my stash and used that for that edge and stamped on it with the white, and now I'm going to use it in a couple of different places here just to kind of I wanted to pick up on the blue in Chase's sweater, and it also helps the wood grain to not stand out as the boldest thing. Now I'm experimenting here, and I didn't end up liking it, but I wanted to make like a washi tape tag, which I do in my project life a lot, and I just didn't like those colors, so I'm going to start over again, and I went with a more subtle background paper and a more blue washi tape. It's the Amy Tangerine with the hearts on it. I think it's Amy. It might be Hambly. I can't remember who made that one. It's clear with blue hearts. And I'm just outlining it with a Staedtler Lumocolor pen and sticking it in there. And now I'm going to decide where everything is going to go. Now that I've got my main piece all layered up. So I kind of stuck with the way I had things. Oh, I just did a last minute Brad switch there, and what that did was it brought some yellow into other parts of the layout so that orangey yellow frame wasn't quite an eyesore. It's still a bit of an eyesore. I don't love that, but that's okay. And now I'm liking how this is, and I didn't want to cover up the insides of those frames, so I decided to use vellum. I'm using vellum all over the place now. I love it. I just outlined where I wanted the words to go so they would fit within the frames, and then once I typed it, I erased those frames so that it wouldn't show once I glued the frames to the vellum. And now I'm just adhering the vellum onto I love my little Zig glue pen because it's really great for getting into tiny little places, and it's not as blobby as something like the clear one. Oh, I always forget what that one is called. You know, the glossy accents, that's it. It's not as globby or messy as glossy accents and Zig, not Zig, what's it called? The Tombow Mono Multi, which I really love, but if I'm using something tiny like this, I'd rather just use my glue pen because it's a lot less messy. I'm putting these on a little bit crooked, just so that it looks casual, for lack of a better word. And I really wish I had kept that blue brad. I might even go back and add the blue brad. There I'm just showing my little, I think it's an awl that I'm using for, it's from my husband's grandmother's kitchen. And it's a pretty alternative to a paper piercer. And again, I'm just going to attach these on slightly crooked, and I'm using my .01 pen to line that, and I'm only lining it once just because it's so tiny. I'd fill it all up with marker lines if I used a wider pen and multiple runs of it. So this layout is almost done at this point. I just need to put the main part on once I'm finished attaching this frame. Oh, I forgot about that brad there. I'm going to trim up the edges. And I like to use my trimmer to trim up the edges of chipboard just because I find I can't cut it chipboard as cleanly as my trimmer can. So I'm just going to use pop dots here to pop up the parts of that are not elevated because of the differences in height with the little wood veneer piece. It's not really veneer. Yeah, I guess it is. It's a little wooden chipboard thing. And it came in the kit. Almost all of this stuff came from the kit except for the blue scrap. So now I'm calling this Late Night Smiles because they got in quite late that night. And the baby was all smiles when he got here. I think he was just thankful to be out of the car. I think it's a 3-hour drive from here to Moncton. So he was happy to get out of the car seat, I think. So there's a close-up.